So welcome back. This lesson is actually going to be a non-programming lesson. I'm just going to quickly explain what is our data structure and how do we go about having our different lists. So I'm going to get myself a little space here, and you don't really need to do any of this. It's just an explanation so we understand what's going on. So I'm going to comment out a little section. So the way we have our lists are that we have lists that they are within a large array, and then inside that array we have each singular list, and that singular list, maybe it has a name. So I'm going to call this one party, and then that list has an owner, so we know who owns that particular list. Let's say Steve. Then that list also has an array of items. So these are the items in my array that equals itself to, of course, an array. All right, like that. And then for each of my items, again, I have, let's say, item. That item alone, it has a name. Let's say the name of this item is bread. That item, it has a status. Status. Maybe it is, let's call it purchased status. Purchased, I'm going to call it false. It's not purchased yet. And that item has a time, the last time it was added or modified, whether we changed this status to purchased or we made this true, or the time we added it. So that time is, for instance, 12:34. Let me bring this a little bit back. 12:34:23 on 01/10/2017, for instance. This is obviously a symbolic way of writing it. That's not a very correct way of doing it. And then I have another item, for instance. So that is my next item. And this item is perhaps very similar, except that instead of bread, this time it's called, maybe you want to buy some soda. And maybe it is already purchased. So the structure of our data is that we have lists. Inside the list, we have every single list. That single list has a name, has an array of items, and it has an owner. That owner is not just based on its name. That owner itself is got a lot of different information, such as the user's name and email address, and most importantly, a UID, a unique way of finding that user. I then go specifically through the user because that's something that's going to come up in a little while. So with that in mind, with that understanding that how our data is being structured, let's go ahead and add a few new classes that are going to help us do all of these things. So I'm going to remove all of this. We don't need any of those. And we're going to move on to our next lesson, which is actually adding some of those classes.